Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? That is the title and question posed by Philip K. Dick in his 1968 novel set in a post-apocalyptic future. The book asks the question, what does it really mean to be human? Dick's book was adapted for film by Ridley Scott and was released in 1982. Since its release, there have been a total of 7 versions of the film. The last version, the final cut, is the only version which Ridley Scott has complete artistic control. On this adventure of the Real Comic Heroes, Blade Runner, the final cut. Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes podcast. I'm Travis.
And I'm Patrick.
And this week we are joined by Margo D of the Book vs. Movie podcast.
Hey welcome, guys, Margo. How are you?
Good.
Doing
Glad
well.
You could join us.
Me too. And I want to apologize ahead of time. My co-host, her name is Margo P. Yes, we're both named Margo. She lost her voice completely. She sounds like Demi Moore on a bender right now.
Wow.
So unfortunately, she can't join us for the show today, and she really loves this movie. So just she's there with us in spirit.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. So, Travis, you want to tell the good listeners what we're going to be going over today?
Well, I feel like I should start off by saying that it is Super Bowl Sunday, and we're sitting around like a bunch of nerds talking to our computers, like a bunch of replicants. So it's none other than Blade Runner, the final cut.
And this is the only movie version I've seen. So this is the first time I've watched Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Period. So final cut, first cut, whatever. I don't know.
What's the difference? I watched Blade Runner, I don't know which version, probably the director's cut. Easily 7 or 8 years ago. So I kind of went into this one with, recognizing the characters, but other than that, I didn't really remember much of it. So what about you, Margo? What is your history with Blade Runner?
Well, I think I'm a little older than you guys. I remember when this movie came out. I wasn't old enough to see it. It was around the time that Poltergeist came out, and I remember my whole family went to see Poltergeist. And so I know it's early 80s, 82 it came out, and I've seen it over the years. At first I thought it was just a boy thing, and then later on I got really into it. And for Margo and I, for our podcast, we read the book, Do Androids Dream... I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of it already. The Philip K. Dick novel that this is based on. We read that, and then we saw the movie, and then we discussed the differences between the two.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think I was 1 year old when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I was born in '83, so yeah.
Yes, you're younger than me. Okay. That's quite an accomplishment. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just now getting into the area where we have some, I should say I have some experience with the movies.
Yeah.
Just because I think right around 82 to like 86, I watched a lot of VHS movies of that era growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm finally getting into my wheelhouse, I guess.
Yeah, we're hitting the sweet spot of the 80s. So.
Yeah.
Because we did a lot of James Bond, and I really... have not seen any of those.
Yeah.
And I think we started off with like the 1957 Superman and the Mole Men or something. Yeah. And a lot of stuff that was beyond me. So now that I'm actually around a time zone I'm familiar with, it should be interesting.
Yeah.
But again, I'm still new to this movie. I'm not as much of a sci-fi expert as Travis here.
Well, I feel like I've just barely scratched the surface with some of this stuff. So, okay, so let's jump into Act 1. I guess.
Where do we have the?
Oh
end
yeah,
of
act breaks.
1?
Yeah, I always forget to mention those.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Act 1 is going to end with right after Rachel and Deckard they have their conversation in his apartment. She leaves, and then he's by himself on his balcony, and then it transitions into the next scene. So that'll be Act 1 break. And then where are we at with Act 2 break?
Right around the time Roy shows up at Sebastian's apartment, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Patrick, what do you got for Act 1?
Well, I'm going to first of all say that I don't quite, maybe the book helps me with this, but just the reasoning behind having replicants look and be so real.
Yeah.
It seems to be a big issue that everyone's aware of, so why do we keep making generations of these robots? I believe it's on Nexus 6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They have fail-safes, so they only live like 4 years.
Yeah.
There's a lot I don't understand because Leon doesn't look like he's in his prime as far as if you want an ideal physical specimen.
Yeah.
Leon looks like he's maybe late 30s, early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Had better days behind him, and he's only got this little 4-year window with that kind of bod.
Right.
So I was expecting more like a superior, like
Sure.
sort of like Dolph Lundgren kind of,
Okay.
a superior physical specimen.
Yeah. Why not make everybody perfect?
Yeah,
kind of thing?
and he's balding. I mean,
Yeah.
he looks like he's had it rough.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of making them more real. Like, I don't know.
That's a good point.
But it threw me off that there's this middle-aged dude that's one of these replicants. Because you got Roy, who looks like he's pretty, in the prime.
Yeah.
And then you got the two ladies,
Pris
and
Zora.
Zora's the one I never remember.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize who she was in the movie until Leon got upset.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was just odd to me, like the whole premise behind the replicants themselves. I don't know if it's just strictly a god complex that what is it, Tyrell
Yeah.
has or something. I don't know. That wasn't clear to me while I was watching this. So, no.
I definitely thought, it would have been nice to see at some point if, like, what makes these guys replicants? Are they like the Terminators in Terminator, where they have a metal skeleton? Because at no point in this movie, whenever they get shot or, do they have, are they like Cylons in Battlestar, where they're mostly organic? Or, like, it would have been interesting to see what they're made of, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like they're genetically engineered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or what is it? Biomechanical. The guy that makes the eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Says he does the eyes.
Yeah.
Cal, I think.
They're androids in the book. It's
Okay.
Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, by the way. That's the name of the book. They are called androids in the book. And I don't know why they switched that for the movie, but they did. So they call it replicants. You're not sure what that means, but they're androids. And the difference between them and humans is that they can't feel empathy. And so that's why they have that questioning at the beginning. So that's what the difference is. They have literally no empathy for anybody, but they try to make them look as normal as possible so they can blend into society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely would bring up more problems than it would,
Yeah, it's weird that they want them to blend in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You don't want them to stand out, but I think it's weird is that the only way to get rid of them is to shoot them. Like, why can't you have like a clicker or something and just turn them off that way? Like, why does it have to be so, violent? But I don't know. That was the thing we discussed in our episode. Like, why do they have to be shot? I think that's a strange choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very particular gun that's got to do it. Is that my understanding?
Oh, I didn't get that.
Okay, because
I know he has a very distinct gun, but I don't know if...
I thought it was like specific to take down replicants or something, because he's a Blade Runner.
I mean, that would be good, because he waves his gun around in public, like, very, very
shoots
recklessly.
in public too. Like he shoots into a crowd a couple of times.
Yeah,
with Laura. Like, wow, really?
You're right.
Yeah, I'm suspect on his claim he's never killed a human.
Yeah.
Because I did really enjoy that part, the hunt of the replicant, because it's so hard to figure out.
Right.
And I believe they mentioned that they can come up with their own emotions, and that's the reason for the failsafe.
Yeah, he said the Nexus 6s
6
were starting to develop or show signs of emotion, and
so something's
desire
gone wrong, and the creator's losing control, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They were designed to copy human beings in every way except their emotions. The designers reckoned that after a few years, they might develop their own emotional responses. Hate, love, fear, anger, envy. So they built in a fail-safe device.
Which is what?
4-year lifespan. Now, there's a Nexus 6 over at the Tyrell Corporation. I want you to go put the machine on it.
And if the machine doesn't work?
Yeah, that was sort of a big, all-encompassing.
No, I think that's good. Mine is kind of similar. Like, just the look and feel of Blade Runner is really nice. I think the thing that people always say about like the original Star Wars universe and now Rogue One is that it feels lived in, and Ridley Scott did a great job with Alien as well, making it making a future that looks dingy and dirty and, again, lived in, compared to like the Krypton of the future sort of that we've seen in Superman, where everything's white crystals and, just, it doesn't hold up as well now, I think, because you can't relate to it. It doesn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole
it's not
movie
familiar.
is just sort of dystopian-esque kind of. It's like a bluish tint to the whole film.
It may be like even the Dark Knight Returns comic kind of has that same kind of. I call it 1980s plus. Like it's that future 1980s, but
yeah, we were kind of talking about this before we started, Margo. Does it throw you off when they do future, but it's not that far in the future, really?
It's a little odd, yeah, because all this takes place now, basically.
Yeah.
It's 2019 that this movie takes place, and all these replicants were born in 2016 and 2017, if you're looking at the screen. So, it's a little strange, but, I mean, he wrote this in the 60s, so...
Set in 1992, I think I read.
Yeah, I don't understand why they don't just go way out, like 2250 or something. But
no, but he's trying to make a point about how people behave now, and they're not, we're not that far away from technological advances. He loved the look of the movie, by the way. He died before the film came out, but the publicist for the movie showed him a few clips, and he loved the look of it. He said it was exactly as he pictured it in his head.
That's good.
Yeah, it made me think of that. God, what is that commercial? There's a commercial with like a woman like throwing a hammer and breaking the screen.
Wasn't that the original Apple?
Apple? That's it. I couldn't remember.
Super Bowl ad.
But it made me think of that.
Yeah.
This movie.
Mm-hmm.
The look of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It kind of weirds me out, like being so close to that time.
Yeah. But I think even if you not if you remade this movie now, but if you just added, touch screens and some modern devices, I think this movie would still hold up and look, really, really cool.
He had Siri/Alexa analyzing that photo.
Yeah. Like 7-inch monitor.
Yeah. He's like, enhance.
Yeah.
Enhance.
I like that scene.
Yeah. So there was some stuff. I mean, obviously it's from 82, so it's a shot in the dark guessing what the future's going to hold based on current technology at that time.
Yeah.
So I think Star Trek's probably had the best go at it.
Yeah. Yeah, because they had touch screens and handheld devices.
Yeah, communicators and whatnot.
Margo, what would your first point be? I think it's very funny how Leon just kind of shows up and there's like nobody like keeping him away. He just kind of walks in very easily and shoots the shit out of the place. I mean, how did that happen? It's a big hole in the plot for me. And I didn't even think about the balding or being older or anything like that. I was just like, he just looks like any guy. But there's something obviously kind of off about him, and the fact that he could just walk in there and cause all this stuff to happen. I thought that was kind of strange. I mean, I love the look of the film for sure, but that scene always makes me go, huh?
I know that when Bryant is talking to Deckard, he mentions, that the whole group of them tried to raid the Tyrell Corporation, and I think 2 of them got killed, or 1 of them got killed. Mm-hmm. And I just assumed then, at that point, they tried to infiltrate, and that's why Leon was there, to get a job at the Tyrell Corporation, and then try to then advance or somehow get access to Tyrell himself.
Okay, I thought he was a suspect.
Well, they were testing him because he worked there. They were testing all of the employees.
Okay. Yeah, because I was confused right off the bat. I thought he was like mentally slow or something.
Okay.
Like, he seemed bizarre.
Yeah.
And now, after knowing what he is, it makes sense. But at the time, I thought something was off on this thing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's weird that he could just waltz in and do that much damage. He had a weapon, didn't he?
Yeah, he shot it was Holden, I think, he was a Blade Runner.
You would have thought that they'd have some kind of security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
guess
a pretty big technological,
yeah.
What the Sebastian guy had to go up that elevator that stops, and then he has to do a couple chess moves to move on or something.
Yeah.
And sort of on the what you were talking about, the look of the movie, very smoky.
Yeah, a lot of smoke.
The outside I thought was just amazing.
Okay.
But inside it was a little less amazing, I guess.
Everything was very dark and
yeah. I don't know. It seemed like that building looked like a giant pyramid-esque thing, but like on the inside it just looked like an old hospital or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird to me. It was almost jarring to see something so awesome with something so I guess pedestrian looking. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that he had the gun and did all that damage.
Yeah.
And just walked in there like that.
I guess it didn't stick out to me just because later on they talk about they scanned all the employees and he was the only one that obviously failed the test.
Yeah, I did like the questioning.
Yeah, I did too. I like him questioning the questions.
That and it was questions about his mom that got him all pissed off.
Right, yeah. I did think it was weird later on when Bryant is talking to Deckard that it's very obvious that it's a lot of exposition meant for the audience, because it's like Bryant is explaining what replicants are to Deckard, who is supposed to be this, expert Blade Runner. Like he's retired, but he's supposed to be, very good at his job. But then Bryant is explaining that obviously he has to tell them who they are, who he's looking for, but he goes further by kind of explaining what replicants are. So it just felt very just serving the audience.
Yeah.
A little, I don't know.
I appreciated it.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're thinking about it like that, it's kind of weird since he's supposed to be the best. I like... And it's like that typical trope. They're taking him out of retirement.
Yeah.
One last time.
Yeah.
One last time, yeah.
And maybe, Margo, you could help me understand this, but do we know why they're called Blade Runners?
No, it's actually never in the book, and I'm blanking on the reference, but it's another sci-fi writer had the name Blade Runner, and they just decided they didn't use They didn't use the term that was used in the book, so they just decided to use Blade Runner because they thought it sounded cool. Basically, they just picked it for that reason.
Okay. Because I was expecting him to have some kind of samurai sword or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm forgetting where he got it, but it was from It's the same person that did Steely Dan. Got their name from him.
Huh.
I'm thinking of a writer that I don't read. But people quote a lot because it makes them sound smart.
Okay. Is it Asimov?
No. Edgier.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if like blades were like a slang term for the replicants that I didn't catch on. Or they were blades, like, because they kill replicants. I was just trying to piece that together, and apparently there was no point
just
in trying.
Sounds cool.
No, they just like the way it sounded. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right on.
So, Act 2, I guess? Or
Margo, unless you have anything else you want to bring up for Act 1.
No, I'm having fun. This is good.
Okay. And yeah.
Oh, actually, there is one more thing. The interview with Rachel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess we should talk about that.
I liked that scene because it's... well, first of all, I knew she was a replicant once she answered the question about the dirty magazine and said, I should be enough.
Yeah.
I was like, that's like such a programmed response, it felt like to me, to say, of course, why would he ever look at such things? And I don't know why I wrote that down, but I was just like, yep, replicant. And I like that it took like 100 questions or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, is she supposed to be the Nexus 7?
No, she's a Nexus 6 as well.
Okay.
Just
because it seemed like Leon got figured out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just, because he's the muscle
programmed to be a little more hot-tempered, maybe.
Yeah.
It seemed like they each had their own sort of specialties.
Yeah. I think Leon was like the muscle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so she was probably more like Roy, like intelligent.
Maybe,
and, although she's not really a leader, I wouldn't say.
I got the sense that she was a special model only for Tyrell. Like, she was his pet project, almost.
And I think she said something, or I think it got mentioned that the memories were based off of his niece.
That's what they say, and I don't know if that is literal or if that was just an idea that Deckard threw at her. Like, maybe you're based off his niece, you know.
Yeah, because that's that was part 2 that I liked, was Deckard's sort of, she comes to him saying, you think I'm a replicant, and then he goes into the spiel and about memories and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Which, and that's a good point to bring up, because that's really when, you know, this first act ends, so. So that, takes us into Act 2.
And my initial, I'm still uncomfortable with their relationship. Decker and Rachel. It's kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the romantic scene.
If you can call it romantic.
I know. It was so weird.
It's really hard to watch now when we have an idea about consent.
Yes.
You know? Which didn't exist in the 80s. It was used as a punchline in a lot of movies too. You know, just men taking advantage of women. And it was just like, well, you know, if you get the opportunity,
right, and
just go for it.
Yeah. I guess to jump ahead to that, as soon as that happened, and I did not remember that from the first time I watched it, so I don't know if this scene is in every version, but I mean, once he started getting forceful, I wrote down, you know, just what a piece of shit Deckard is. So.
He's not a good guy, by the way. He's the lead in the movie, but he's not a good person. And Harrison Ford doesn't like this part very much. It's surprising that he went into the remake or whatever they're doing right now, the sequel, because he and Ridley Scott didn't get along, and they had different ideas of like what Rick was about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely after a few Bond movies,
Yeah. It's kind of been interesting seeing where we came from to where we are now when you look at movies.
Yeah.
Like, early Bond was a lot of slapping women around and throwing them on the bed.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that was seen as cool then? I don't quite understand.
Yeah.
Well, so the idea of like a woman shouldn't consent easily, so you had to make it difficult for them, and then it shows like it was just weird, the psychology. Like if you put up a bit of a fight, then you're not a bad girl. And I know, it's so messed up. I know. Thank God we're not like that anymore.
Oh, then you got the Pleasure Bot 5000 that's in this movie as well. So
Yeah.
Right.
That's like for military purposes. Is that what I read it?
Well, she was an assassin. She was part of the...
Okay.
What do they call it? The Kick Murder Squad or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out how they relate military and then pleasure. Like,
well, Pris was just a pleasure model, they said. Your basic pleasure model. And then
so
Zora
weird.
was an assassin.
Okay. So it's like Real Doll.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what was that, Lars and the Real Doll?
Yeah.
Or Real Girl or whatever it was?
And you know what's interesting is Zora in the book, she was an opera singer. And she just went around the world and sang and had an incredible, beautiful voice. Yeah. And for some reason, they turned her into a stripper. So there you go.
Like, as far as the group of Nexus 6s that, they escape from Mars, which they're trying to colonize.
Oh, okay. I just heard off-world.
Yeah, so any replicant that then tries to come to Earth, that's why the Blade Runners go after them. But it was hard to understand for me. Like, so they all came to Earth, and then she became a stripper. Leon became, an employee of the Tyrell Corporation. Like, I didn't understand how long they'd been there, why they tried to get.
Yeah, I didn't understand her part in that plan.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were all doing different things as part of a mission to then later on take over Tyrell, or if they just, it's what came natural to them. So Pris became, I guess, a street urchin,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So that's kind of where I was having a hard time understanding why they were doing what they were doing.
Well, I mean, it was obvious that they were wanting to extend their life.
Yeah.
And I think Pris was there scoping out Sebastian after they found out his name from the eye doctor.
Chow, yeah.
So I get why she was hanging out in the garbage there.
Yeah.
Leon was more of like a right-hand man to Roy.
Yeah.
So he was trying to get on the inside. Roy was sort of masterminding.
Yeah.
From behind the scenes, and then Zora, I have no idea.
Yeah, and then the other two.
Okay, so
I just wanted to bring up William Sanderson, the guy that plays JF, JF Sebastian. So he's in a ton of things, but the one thing I know him from best is a character he played in Batman the Animated Series, or a voice that he did. And it was, now I'm convinced, is completely inspired by Blade Runner, because he is basically playing a Tyrell-type character who created this, basically created replicants, and then kind of retired from that lifestyle to live on a farm where he made little toys and little machines to work his farm. So it was kind of, he was playing a mix between Sebastian and Tyrell for that episode. It was, or 2 episodes, I think.
Home again, diggity dig. Good evening, Dad.
Evening, fellas. They're my friends. I made them. Where are your folks?
I'm sort of an orphan.
Oh, what about your friends?
I have some, but I have to find them.
Yeah, I liked Sebastian.
Yeah.
Him and his weird little toys, as he called them.
Yeah.
It was very, I don't know what the term is. It's not, I guess it's kind of steampunkish. Mm-hmm. It's like, his aren't like realistic looking.
Yeah.
And they're kind of obvious.
Wearing
that they're
costumes
not,
and kind of clowns.
Yeah, it was
kind
of an interesting vibe he had going on in his mega apartment.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that to look like that on the inside.
Oh, okay.
Like, because outside it looks like a prison block. You go inside and it's this ornate looking,
very kind of Victorian. Like some of the rooms were. Yeah.
So everything about him was just interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because he sort of has a weird relationship with the replicants. It's almost like he admires them in a way. But I do want to say that the most jarring thing in this movie was probably Decker's Clark Kent impersonation.
Yeah.
Where he's talking to Zora.
Right.
And he uses that weird Kent-esque voice trying to sound nerdy,
very
I guess.
Meek and
I don't... the whole time I was just like, stop making that voice.
When he was trying to get in Zora's dressing room or whatever, I thought it was interesting that his cover story was he was there, checking to make sure that nothing untoward has happened to her while we're seeing her in various, states of undress, showering, and then
he says you'd be surprised what a guy would do to see a beautiful woman or something like that.
It's like, I'm not surprised Deckard would do this now.
I'd like to check your dressing room, if I may.
For what?
For holes.
Holes?
Well, you'd be surprised what a guy go through to get a glimpse of a beautiful body.
You got anything you want to talk about for the second act?
I'm trying to remember the second act. I loved it. Was Zora in the second act? Because I love the scenes with her. Because I think Joanna Cassidy is fantastic at it. And I think something that gets missed is once again going back to the book, but animals become extinct in this universe.
Oh yeah.
And so any animal that exists that you have that's real, and that's why they talk about android sheep. Androids are about electric sheep, because if you actually have a real animal, it's considered a prized possession. At some point he talks about the snake that she has. And she says that, well, if I had a real snake, are you kidding me? I wouldn't be here. Like, the wealthy bourgeoisie have real animals. So when you see that first scene with Sean Young as Rachel and you see an owl, that's a big deal in the book. In the movie, they just kind of throw it out there, I guess, for the nerds who have read the book. But they never mentioned it in the movie. And the reason Joanna Cassidy got the part, actually, one of the reasons she got the part, that was her snake. She was basically like, yep, I'll do the stripping scene and I'll bring my own snake. And they're like, okay, you're a girl.
I just know her from as the mom on what's it called now? The Babysitter's Dead. Don't tell Mom.
She was the boss. She was the boss, not the mom. That's one of my favorite movies. So I'm right on top of that, Rose.
What's that?
Right on top of that, Rose.
Yeah.
My wife has a coffee mug that says that.
Nice. It's one of my favorites. I put that on Facebook every once in a while with no context, and a bunch of people will respond, I love that movie. I say that all the time.
Nice.
Mine is the dishes are done.
Yeah, there you go.
I do like in this second act that how we see that the killing really shakes Deckard, because he takes out Zora and then instantly goes to buy a beer or buy some kind of alcohol, and he's very shaken when he's just trying to pay for it. Like, he throws some money at her and says, is this enough? And then he has the run-in with Leon, and then Rachel kills him, and then again they're both, just very shaken. And he even says in his apartment to Rachel that the shaking will go away, or the shaking is normal, something like that. So
it's
I think
weird.
It's interesting that Deckard, who is supposed to be this Blade Runner, has these
feelings for the replicants,
or just in doing his job, he's still
you'd think he'd be
has a hard time handling it.
Yeah, he'd be more desensitized and think of them as machines, like they're supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah,
but he actually seems to feel bad about what he is doing.
Yeah,
so, it's it's definitely a weird. I wasn't expecting that either. I thought he'd just be like, "Yep, job well done."
Yeah,
way to go, Deckard.
Yeah, I think I'm good as far as my Act 2 notes. Does anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Because a lot happens at the end of this act.
Everything happens at the end of this movie.
Because it seems like they kind of split the first, the first half of the movie is all like noir detective, detective story. He's, I guess, just hunting for clues and all that normal detective style storytelling. And then, the second half is just kind of suspense and everything just leading up to the kind of final scene or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, up to this point, you don't get a whole lot of Roy.
Yeah.
He had the scene with the eyeball engineer.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, was there anything else with him?
He talks to Leon outside of
That's right.
the apartment, but it's just a brief little moment. Really the only scenes you get with Roy are, the eyeball scene and then Sebastian's apartment,
Okay.
which is, if we want to jump into Act 3, that's where we would start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, I mean, Act 3 is just basically the whole movie, it seems like.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's jump in.
This is what I was going to bring up in Act 2, that Pris's line to Sebastian about there's not another human being on this whole earth that would help us. When she says that, it sounds nice because she's thanking him for helping them out with Tyrell, but the look on his face, it's so full of regret and shame because he knows like he's betraying humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess not on a huge scale. It's not like these guys are trying to take over the world, and but he's at least selling out his boss, another human or
yeah. Well, it seems like he respects him.
He does, yeah, but
they have a weird relationship.
But I like the choice of words that she used. Saying that, calling him a human being, and saying that you're the only one that would help us. I like that he knows instantly what he's agreeing to, kind of, and that he's selling everyone else out, basically. I really like the look he gives, just his performance visually is really, really strong. So that stood out to me really, really strongly in Act 3.
Yeah, I liked, I'm sort of going backwards, but Tyrell, he had a line, I believe, when he's introducing Rachel.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about the replicants as more human than human.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it sounds like something that would have been in the book. But it made me think of Rob Zombie's
of course
song, so I'm assuming he was inspired
probably
by this. But it's weird because later on he says in Act 3 that when he's talking with Roy about how his lifespan's so short because he burns so bright, so he's so much more human than a real human that's why he's sort of, I don't know, I sort of linked the two lines together in my head.
Huh. That's what shortened his lifespan because
you're so great that it's not meant to last long, right. I guess is what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
And there's no, I mean, and it sounds like he wasn't feeding him a line like,
right.
You can't live this much longer because this, and this.
Yeah.
So I don't get the vibe that he was lying to them or to Roy. It just may be like, what should we call it? The brightest star. What is that stupid saying?
Oh, the brightest flame burns. Brightest flame burns quickest, or
yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, he's basically a superhuman. Although I guess it makes less sense in the book if they're actually androids.
Right? Because in the book, they have? I'm assuming they have a 4-year life cycle, or okay.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah.
4-year warranty.
That's it. And they never have a childhood. Like they feed them, they give them pictures and say, "This was your childhood," but it's not real. And and that's the tragedy of it. Once, because they start to enjoy living and they figure things out, and then they realize they're going to be taken out or die. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely felt bad for the replicants, because it was almost like they were just. I mean, it's like, why would you make something to feel, have that possibility, and only give them like that much time?
Yeah, I guess I keep thinking of the movie. Like, I didn't read the book, but the movie I, Robot. It's like, why not just make all your replicants, make them androids or make them robots so that they're clearly identified as robots. They don't have feelings or memories or things like that. Like if they're going to be used off-world in harsh environments, why make them?
Yeah.
This goes back to your first point in our first act that, why make them as close to human as possible?
Yeah. I mean, I think Star Wars got it right with C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah.
Just make them look like a trash can or whatever they're built.
That's true, yeah. Then you don't care about them.
Yeah.
Because this just seems cruel. And I'm assuming it's a god complex kind of thing. Like he wants to create.
Yeah, I think Tyrell wants to get as close to perfection as he can. Because he definitely is very eager to know what happens with Rachel and taking the Voight-Kampff test. I think he's very proud that it takes like 100 questions to... Yeah.
But in the end, what are you really accomplishing? Just a miserable
trying to
existence for this thing.
It's in our nature to destroy ourselves, so it's in our nature to, create our next, like, what's going to take over after us, I think.
So does that mean the dinosaurs made us? I'm assuming that's rock solid science right there.
Right, yeah.
Tiny little T-Rex hands building humans. Yeah, no, I'm waiting for the robot overlord to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
There is, because I guess, right, I mean...
How did you like the, Margo, how did you like the father-son reunion?
The father-son reunion? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You mean with Roy?
Roy and Tyrell.
I have to say we haven't brought it up yet. We'll probably bring it up at the end. But I think Rutger Hauer is so fantastic in this movie. Like he is everything. Every time he's on screen, it's just like you can't take your eyes off of him. He's just so magnetic, and he's just everything. I just love Roy in this movie, so I can't see him enough. Basically,
yeah. I love the and basically it's a chess match between Roy and Tyrell. Like. They're trying to, Roy is trying to counteract every, possible scenario to extend his life. So he says something about changing their DNA structure or, whatever. And Tyrell comes back at him with, the fact that they...
Causes a virus or something.
Yeah, they embedded that virus in them or, so they just kind of keep going back and forth trying to... beat each other almost
and Roy's desperate for because I didn't realize how close he was to the end
right he shouldn't be because he's what was his
was he 2016 as well?
He was 2017.
Okay.
I think just on one of the Facebook pages I saw I think January 8th was his incept date of this year, so January 8th 2017 was when he was created. So it's 2019. He's only 2 years old, give or take a few months or whatever. So yeah, he shouldn't be that close to the end of his life cycle. But again, if he's been... Maybe
he's that bright flame again.
Yeah, so. that's exactly what Tyrell was referring to.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, I know he's not in the fourth year, so why is he... breaking down like that?
I feel like it's either Pris or Leon or one of the older ones. One of them are, I think 2016. I think.
Yeah, I think that's Leon.
Yeah,
because he asked how old he is, right. And to Deckard.
You were made as well as we could make you, but not to last. The light that burns twice as bright burns half as long, and you have burned so very, very brightly, Roy. Look at you. You're the prodigal son. You're quite a prize.
I've done questionable things.
Also extraordinary things. Revel in your time.
But yeah, I like the father-son kind of reunion, the maker and
the creation. Yeah.
Like he literally met his maker.
Well, and
it was kind of odd though that he so violently killed him though.
Yeah, it's
like he
kind of out of nowhere,
crushed
but
his freaking head.
I mean, it's just pure
maybe
raw
he hated
emotion.
the mind that created him, and he was trying to physically crush that mind. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that could be it. It's an intense scene, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. And at this point, I could not take my eyes off of the screen, and I I watched this a few times. That way I could have some notes for the end of the movie. But at this point, I'm just watching the movie from, this basically from this scene until the end. Just because, like Margo said, he is so magnetic. You just want to see what Roy does next. And it's an amazing scene with him and Tyrell.
And
really amazing scenes from here on, on to the end, really.
Now, what's going on with Sebastian? Is he dead?
Yes.
After that?
Deckard hears, I think it's Bryant is telling him that they found Sebastian's body along with Tyrell. Both of them.
I assume that's what happened, but I must have missed that part.
Yeah, it's just voiceover.
Yeah.
So it'd kind of be easy to miss.
Okay. Now, I know Pris starts camouflaging as David Bowie. As what Ziggy Stardust look she's got. I'm assuming she's doing that to blend in with the other weird
to look like one of Sebastian's toys. Yeah.
Because at first I was thrown off by what she was doing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that moment with Deckard just investigating the Sebastian's place, and I kind of wish he wouldn't have approached Pris right away. I think it'd be cool if he would have went to the other near human other toys that Sebastian had, but
I wrote down 2 words for my vibe I got when he walked into that place, and it was wondrous nightmare. Because it's both amazing and horrifying at the same time to me.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, it looks creepy but awesome.
Kind of like Alice in Wonderland. Like, it's kind of charming, but it's very just creepy. Like, right under the
under the surface. It's very disturbing.
Yes. Yeah.
It could have been
the art direction is fantastic in this movie. I mean, that's an overstated thing because every scene looks amazing, but they really do spend the time making each scene and each location unique and a little unnerving. It's still Los Angeles. It's still based on a city and you've heard of, but it's just all very unnerving.
Yeah.
And that brings up something. I don't even think they needed to even say it was in Los Angeles, because the whole time I was just like, are we in Japan? Or like, it's very Japanese influenced. Los Angeles, I guess.
Right.
I don't know if that's just a section of Los Angeles, like little Tokyo or something, but
I think it's just it's the same thing like Firefly does. A lot of their future or their society is very Chinese influenced. I think it's just you're extrapolating on the idea that there's already 1 billion Chinese people. Like, I think in the future the idea is that as they progress, they're going to take over more of society, and that culture is going to be more Chinese influenced. And I think that's the idea with some of these future.
Yeah, I thought they were like trying to make a statement about Japanese sort of industrialization and influence. And, because I mean, there's other movies in the 80s that come out like that. There's what's that one with Michael Keaton? He's like running a car manufacturing plant or something that the Japanese company takes over.
Gung Ho?
Gung Ho, yeah.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, so I feel like the 80s had some Japanese worries about like how fast they were influencing manufacturing, maybe.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that leaked into this movie or something. Because, it was very, Japanese influenced.
Sure.
It seemed like. I mean, those giant billboards had that same lady on it like every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then like the little kind of diner cart things.
The food truck or
whatever it was.
Food kiosk that he was at.
Yeah, and they even kind of have that in Fifth Element, which I was talking to Travis, made me think of like I was thinking about Fifth Element when I saw bits and pieces of this.
Yeah, definitely very inspired by Blade Runner, I would think.
Yeah.
Just about any music video of the 1980s and even up to the 90s was influenced by this movie. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The way it looked and just the dystopian future and all of that stuff. You could see, you saw it on MTV throughout the 80s and into the 90s.
It'll be interesting the next, as we move, into our upcoming movies we're about to enter 83, but, as we move forward, it'll be interesting to now have this as a reference to say, even more, what else is inspired by this. So.
Yeah, I saw a lot of things that I've seen in other films, so it's obvious that a lot of filmmakers and writers were, and set designers were influenced by this, and Aliens. And...
I would say like Back to the Future 2 comes to mind, like their version of the future with flying cars,
they screw up the timeline.
Yeah.
And they have that dystopian where Biff's the mayor.
Yeah, or even just even their normal version of the future is still like the flying cars and just some things I would think would be probably taken from this.
I forgot it was 1982 that this was made. I thought it was a lot later, just when I got lost in it.
Gotcha. Well, do we want to kind of? I mean, there's not a lot more to talk about, but I'm sure we want to talk about the confrontation between Roy and
Deckard.
And Deckard.
Yeah, was it supposed to be like I don't know if I want to say Christ-like, but when he pushed the nail through his hand, like his palm.
Oh, God.
Made me think of being crucified.
Sure.
Yeah. And he was sort of like suffering for the rest of the replicants because he was trying to, make everyone better by giving them longevity and learning it. I don't know if he was that altruistic, honestly, but I didn't know if that's what they were trying to say, because it was just weird that he stuck a nail right through his
I think it was purely like he needed either a push of adrenaline or he just needed, because his hand was starting to seize up, and he was saying like need more time or something like that. So I think he was either trying to kill the nerve that was that was actually seizing, or I don't know, but I think it was just out of pure necessity to try to make his hand function. I don't know.
Okay.
But I mean, that's an interesting, way to take it for sure.
That's my Irish Catholic background.
Right.
It was kind of fun seeing them interact though.
Yeah, I like the chase, just Deckard trying to scramble for any way to get away, and between literally climbing up and then through the next floor was really cool.
Yeah, he had the "Here's Johnny" moment where he stuck his head through the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny. And the whole scene where he jumps the gap that Deckard missed and was hanging, and then he saves him. Yeah. But he has that line where he's like, now you know what it's like to live in fear, and saying, that's what he's living with the whole, 2 years for him. So it's kind of interesting he was showing him what it's like, and then, he actually saved him. So I was very confused by Roy as a character.
His motivation
very complex.
Sure.
Is he a psychopath? Or
right.
is he just I couldn't figure him out?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know why he saved Deckard, and maybe Margo, maybe you can help us out with that if you.
I think they just didn't want to kill Deckard. So they needed have him hanging by the ledge. And then rescue him to show him Roy wasn't a bad person. He just wanted to live. He just wanted a few more years. So he's not out to hurt anybody. He just wants to live a few more years. He appreciates being alive, and Deckard doesn't. And I think that's part of the theme. And it was much more explored in the book.
Okay.
But definitely the baddie character is just so fantastic. And just the way he was it's like tears in the rain. That whole line was, and holding the dove was beautiful. It just takes your breath away.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
Yeah, that was weird. He was like holding on to that dove.
Yeah, well, back into the animal theme. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what is he doing?
They never explain it in the movies, which is a little frustrating if you've read the book. Because you're like, no, all the animals are important. You have to remember that. They're a symbol.
I think, and I think it's there purely for the symbology of you don't see the dove fly away until Roy's dead.
Right.
So he's at peace at that point, or
he's not in peace, or he's a peaceful person. He's not out to destroy. He just wants to live, but he's being programmed to destroy. It's bizarre.
And it seems he only focuses his rage on those that can't help with what he wants, and that's longevity, because he seems to kill the eyeball engineer.
I would assume so.
Yeah. And then Sebastian and Tyler, or
Tyrell.
I always say Tyler. Tyrell. But I don't think he really kills anyone else, does he?
Not that we see.
No.
I know Leon kills the other Blade Runner, but
sure.
That's Leon. He's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
no, actually, and when Bryant is telling Deckard about
right.
this Nexus 6 group, they killed 23 people. I think.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but again, I think it's more.
But that was then,
Well, that and it's more of a desperation than pure just killing to kill. It's more like a cornered animal. Like they're just trying
to survive.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I had seen this movie once before, and it didn't do much for me. It was just okay. I didn't understand what the hype was all about, but then watching it this time around, and especially leading up to the Tears in the Rain moment, and just the whole third act of this movie, I get it now. I understand why this is, a favorite of a lot of people's. So it definitely had more of an impact on me this time. So, and that might just come with age. I probably watched it in my mid to early 20s. Now I'm, 33, and I think I get some of the concepts a little bit better this time around. So there's definitely, I think, something to be said about experiencing movies at certain ages. Some movies, I think, maybe need to wait until you're...
Yeah,
I hear that with totally different movie, but Goonies.
Okay, yeah. You watch it as a kid, and then you watch it as the adult, and then you see it from two different...
I did a podcast recently where we talked about the movie Big.
Okay.
It's the Tom Hanks film, and I saw that as a teenager, and the whole point is he wakes up one day and he's an adult, right?
Yeah.
And then he basically, the family thinks he's been kidnapped, right? And he goes to New York City and starts a career. Where I saw that in the movie theater, I'm like, when I was younger, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I saw this again recently, that is the most messed up thing ever. Because I'm thinking about the parents. These poor people think their son was kidnapped and nobody's doing anything. And he's just having a career in New York.
Just jumping on beds. And
he's jumping on trampolines and he's playing piano. And what's the big deal?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, teenagers are selfish.
Right.
Yes, they are. I'm sorry, I got the Blade Runner. It's from a 1974 story by William S. Burroughs. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Naked Lunch. Yeah, that's where they got the name.
Okay.
Yeah, Big is just creepy at some points. So.
It's really disturbing. We talked about it for an hour, and the more you go through the plot, you're like, this is terrible. It's a nightmare situation.
Well, yeah, because I think the mom finds grown-up Tom Hanks in the kid's bed.
He's in the house, and he's wearing, and he says, "Mom, it's me," and she goes, "No, it's not." And then he says, "No, Mom." He shows his underwear. Like he's showing, so she thinks this grown man's in her son's underwear. That's how messed up this movie is. Wow. Anyway, I diverted you guys from the real thing. It's Blade Runner.
It's exactly like Blade Runner.
Yep.
Yes, it's exactly the same thing.
Tom Hanks is a replicant.
Yes. I mean, anybody have anything else as far as the general acts 1, 2, or 3, or?
No, I mean, as a whole, I really enjoyed
the
movie, and it was kind of fun picking out the pieces I could recognize from other movies.
Okay. Yeah.
It's always kind of fun doing that with like movies from the past. I mean, and I'm sure this was influenced by other things, and and so forth. But it was very evident that this had a big influence on the sci-fi sort of filmmaking for years to come, and still today.
Right.
The story itself was, I mean, it's
a detective story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you saw the final cut? You didn't see any other version, so you didn't see the version with the voiceover?
I might have. I don't remember. Like I said, I think I might have either seen the director's cut or the first time I had seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But then this was the only other version I've watched since then. So
because when it came out, in the first 10 years after it came out, if you saw it on video, they had narration.
Right.
And it was the worst voiceover narration you ever heard in your life because it was very 1940s film noir.
Yeah.
And you could tell Harrison Ford was like, this is bullshit.
I had heard that he did not want to do it.
No.
And that's kind of why he did it like deadpan.
Yeah.
So he did the voiceover okay.
Yeah, but didn't want to, so.
So the rumor was that he purposely did a bad job so that they wouldn't use it. But they used it anyway. But he's like, no, I didn't purposely do a bad job. I read it the way they told me to read it. And I didn't want to read it that way, but that's what they told me to do. And you have to understand, he did Star Wars, and then he did the Indiana Jones movie. He's used to being a hero in a movie. Yeah. And it was very hard for him for this part because he's not a hero. Yeah. He's not a good guy.
He's a piece of shit.
He's not fun, He's a drag. So I think he had a very hard time with this experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could care less about the storyline between him and Rachel.
Yeah, in one of the original versions, they kind of go off in a car and they drive up the coast, and it's really stupid.
I saw some just in looking at stuff getting prepared for this. Yeah, I saw maybe some stills of them look like they were driving up the PCH or just through the coast or something like driving off together. I don't know.
So do we know why his partner, I guess?
Oh, Gaff.
Yeah, why he creates those little origami things?
Yeah, that's back to the animal thing. So it's showing a fake animal. So basically, Deckard is most likely an android.
Yeah, I don't know. I figured we'd talk about this of the whole is Deckard a replicant or not.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I don't know where I land on it because
it's not true in the story, by the way, in the book.
Right.
He is human.
Right.
So but the director says he's a replicant,
right,
and
that's
Harrison
what I read.
Ford insists he's not. And by the way, both of them at that time, neither one had read the book.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, he seems to have emotion, so
yeah. Well, I guess it would come down to how long has he been a Blade Runner? If it's longer than 4 years, then probably he's not an android.
Right.
Or maybe he's just the second version.
Yeah. If he popped up a couple years ago and Bryant and, had just met him then, maybe he could still be an android, but...
And it is kind of weird that Bryant seems to have this much control over him.
Yeah.
He's like, so I have no choice. And he's
right.
I know, he tells it right away.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you really folded fast there.
Yeah. Oh, twist my arm, fine.
Right. So yeah, I think I land more on the side of he's not a replicant, but
yeah, I had no.
He still has the weird. He does still have the weird unicorn dream, and then Gaff makes a unicorn origami.
That is, I wrote that down and forgot to ask about that. Yeah. That never paid off for me. I didn't know what was going on with that.
And I think a lot of this movie has just some artistic choices, like the long panning shots of the city, or just certain artistic shots that Ridley Scott, chose to do it. Could be unnecessary. The pacing is probably the biggest problem I had with the movie the first time I had ever watched it, because I think I was probably just a little bored with kind of how slow it moves at times, especially in that first half. So
yeah, I thought the unicorn was just supposed to be some kind of rare thing he was chasing.
Sure.
And I was just like, okay, was that Roy
it
or
could
Rachel,
stand for Rachel, probably.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it never even occurred to me that he was a replicant.
Yeah. Well, we got through the actual review pretty quickly, especially for us. So
I tend to move things along.
If we want to jump into some of our closing, things like normally we do most heroic and most villainous, we can kind of briefly go through those. I think we'll all agree. Yeah.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I just finally know what I have to do.
That keeps us honest.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Gives us strength.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
Makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
Let's start with most heroic. Mine would be Rachel saving Deckard from Leon.
Oh, yeah. I like Roy rescuing Deckard.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say Sebastian taking in Pris.
Okay.
I thought it was a real solid move.
Right on. So that's good that we got different ones.
It really wasn't that heroic, but,
sure.
You find a lady in the trash and you take her in. That's pretty nice. In
a fairly bleak movie like this, take what we can get.
That, and I thought he was, maybe autistic or something.
Okay.
He was an odd dude.
Yeah.
I guess is the way I want to say it. So I thought he was sort of like Rain Man-esque, like he was maybe not socially the greatest.
And I think probably because that's why he has his toys and those are his friends. I think he's very much a shut-in and doesn't deal with social situations probably very well. And
in the book, he actually was just a very slow person.
Okay.
Intellectually. And he could only kind of relate to replicants and androids and animals or fake animals.
Right. Well, there you go.
Hey-o.
You called it.
You were made to be ruled.
Gods are selfish beings who fly around in little red capes and don't share their power with mankind.
In the end, you will always kneel. I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
Let's talk about most villainous.
I like it when Leon shoots his boss.
Okay.
It's evil.
Yeah.
Well, we already talked about it, but I'm going to say Harrison Ford, Deckard and Rachel.
Yeah, scumbag Deckard.
Oh, yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. It's like, tell me you want me.
Yeah.
Tell me you need me.
That's so disturbing.
I literally had to, I was cringing and didn't want to watch.
Yeah. I got angry at that point and just, yeah.
It made me uncomfortable, so I guess it succeeded in getting an emotion out of me.
I think it's the point. I think that was probably Ridley Scott trying to say he's not the shining example of what, of what we want a hero to be. That's not who this guy is. But up until that point, there was still no other examples of him being a douchebag like this. So it still came out of nowhere,
Right.
So, okay.
What about you? Villain?
Oh, that was the same. Yeah.
Same.
Scumbag
Okay.
Deckard.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, yeah, if we have any pros and cons that we didn't talk about, we can wrap those up here and then get into our ratings.
I think pro, it's the set design.
Okay.
I think that's excellent. I think the music is really good, and I think the acting is really strong.
Yeah. performances was definitely my top pro. Just from I really like what Sean Young did with Rachel, and I was really impressed with Daryl Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Rutger Hauer would be at the top, but I think everyone in the movie, I think performances all around were really strong.
Now I have this as a con, the Deckard voice of an innocent guy.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny watching him lose the voice with Zora.
Yeah.
At least he was using it, and he was losing it when he felt like he was losing the control of the thing. So it was kind of nice that he fluctuated out of it, and it wasn't just that voice. He was actually messing around with it a little bit, but it was still kind of painful to listen to.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford to me he's not an impersonator.
No, he kind of has one mode. Yeah. A few different modes, but
I gave him E for effort.
Yeah. My only con, obviously aside from Scumbag Deckard, is just the pacing. At the first half, it felt like we were kind of marking time until we get the conflict between Deckard and Roy. It felt like just a little bit of a slow build, and you're just waiting for that. But I enjoy how we got there. So
yeah, because I was enjoying just seeing the world.
Okay,
it was an interesting place to try to figure out.
Yeah,
I couldn't quite understand the setting of the movie. It looked dystopian, but I don't think it's necessarily so. It's just everything's dark and raining all the time.
Yeah.
You get that one shot of sun in Tyrell's place.
Yeah.
And it's even a muted sun.
Yeah.
So I can't quite grasp what this world is really like.
Yeah.
Because they're expanding outworlds. So I'm guessing our world is sort of old news, and
I read that it was
moving out
post-nuclear.
Is it? Okay.
So basically the rest of the world is just kind of a shithole, and that's why they were trying to colonize.
Yeah. I assume something was going on that made journeying outward
and that's
necessary.
What killed all the animals.
Okay.
And I think the book goes into more of that. Is that
Yeah, correct? Absolutely. That's a con for me, is I wish they incorporated more elements from the book, which they could have done in that first third. Anyway, because it was kind of slow, just to explain things.
Okay. Let's just do our overall thoughts and ratings, and we'll wrap this one up.
Sure. I'd probably throw a 4 out of 5 on this. Like I said, it is a bit slow, but it kept my attention. Trying to figure out this world was interesting to me, and I can tell there's a lot of pieces in this that are great and have been sort of borrowed.
Yeah.
Going forward. It's always interesting to me, the storyline of sort of man creating something that they lose control of.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, what is life? Kind of are these machines, or are they living? Are they considered living beings?
Right.
So it's always kind of interesting and fun for me to have that kind of story in the background there.
Right on. So 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And like I said before, that something changed. I don't know if it was seeing the final cut versus whatever version I saw before, or just being, in my 30s now, that maybe that's what changed for me. But, I went into this with really low expectations because I knew I didn't care for it, or didn't care for whatever version I'd watched previously. So I was very, very happy, pleasantly surprised, I guess, coming out of this that, I really, really like this movie. And watching it basically 2 times in 3 days just to prepare for this, it didn't feel like homework. It it kept my attention both times, and yeah, I could watch this again. And I've heard people say that this is their Christmas movie, like it's their once a year they watch it at,
Okay.
They watch it every year, or not that it's a Christmas movie.
I was going to say, it's not Die Hard.
Yeah, exactly. So,
it's a pretty heavy
I get
movie.
it now, it's not one that, once is enough, really. It is one that I would want to revisit again. So yeah, I also give it a 4. The Deckard moment really, really hurt the score on this one for me, so that's why I couldn't give it a 4.5 or a 5. But yeah, it's a 4 for me.
It's a 4 for me as well, and for the same reasons. It drags a little bit at the beginning, and the Deckard moment is really repulsive, compared to today's values and what we know. It's upsetting, and it kind of takes you out of it. But everything else about it is great. I mean, you could see why it's a classic, and you could see why it influenced so many people. And you're going to notice that, like, from now on, like, oh my God, that's where they got that from. So yeah, it's a 4 out of 5. It's a classic.
Very cool.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd sort of given us more on each of the replicants. Like, I felt like Zora had absolutely zip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Leon even. I mean, he had a couple scenes. It was just... And even Roy, he didn't even get much action till the very end. It was just... I would have liked to know more about them, I think.
I wonder if it would have been better to see them, as a group, and see them infiltrate, or see them, however they took over the ship that they took over, and then,
Yeah, take out the creepy scene and add in some backstory to the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So I think we... that's the first time we've had the same score, I think.
Yeah, that's very... That's rare. Margo, why don't you tell our listeners just, a little bit more about your show, or anything you want to plug here? That now's your chance.
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much for inviting me on the show. My co-host and I, who's also named Margo, we co-host a podcast called Book versus Movie. You look it up in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, bookvs.movie podcast. And we covered this episode February of last year, Blade Runner. And we talked a lot about Philip K. Dick and his background. And it's a fun episode. I think you guys would really like it. So thank you so much. And you can follow me on social media at Book versus Movie on Twitter and Facebook.
Very
Excellent.
nice.
Yeah, thanks again just for joining us. And I mean, I knew it took a lot to get things scheduled and everything for us, but I'm glad we got a chance to sit down and talk with you with this. This was fun. This
was really fun. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. Well, I guess our listeners can connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, and so we will be back in 2 weeks with John Carpenter's The Thing. Unless there are some new Super Bowl movie trailers for us to cover between now and then. So hopefully there's a Star Wars trailer for Last Jedi. So,
well, I know I've been waiting for the new Sex and the City movie personally.
well, until then, thanks for listening.
Men have just discovered something. For 100,000 years, it was buried in the snow and ice. Now it has found a place to live. Inside. Where no one can see it, or hear it, or feel it.
I know I'm human. Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, Then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can be one of those things!